Hello everybody, it's Peter with an I, S-T-A-W-A-R-T. Welcome to segment 12 of, I don't know, the Dark Tower, I guess. Things. In a 6-hour period of working at the computer, 3 of them would be spent actually getting anything done. But now things were different. She was mad about her teeth, and the fight sequences of Diablo inspired her not only to get even with a dentist for taking her teeth, but also to get them back. If she was going to keep working on her project, she needed to use her time wisely and step up the pace. 2 things at once. Chop chop, baby! She clicked save, and as the computer buzzed, she laced her shoes. She was out the door to take a jog before it quit saving and rested in silence. Chapter 12. Patches of sun would break through from time to time as Frank pulled ivy off one of the brick walls. Ivy looks pretty, but after a few years, the roots get into the mortar and start to tear the structure apart, and tendrils start to get inside the house and wrap around your throat and ankles when you're sleeping and turn you into topiary. Where do you think topiary comes from? Earlier on, Frank had gotten out of bed, feeling sick with grief, after he had woken up from a dream in which he and the love of his life, the beautiful cup of pop, were sitting on a warm beach. In the dream, the air was uncomfortably hot, but she was kept nice and cool with the pieces of ice that floated just inside her forehead. "Will you marry me?" he asked, and from the expression on her face, she was going to say yes. He would have suffered emotional agony throughout the day if he hadn't gone to work on the ivy, which took his mind off it. He mopped his brow and shuddered once again, thinking about the nest of crawly things he'd gotten into, trying to clean the ivy off near the meter. Frank knew the nest could be taken care of with some poison, but he hated poison because it gave him a terrible stomachache. He wished he had some antimatter he could spray on the stuff. He could spray antimatter on the nest of the crawly things, the ivy, and all the other overgrowth around the place, which made the grounds look like a jungle. The word jungle is a fun word for monkeys and children, but a horrifying curse word to landscapers. Landscapers wake up screaming from nightmares in which they're given a lawnmower and told to cut down a wooded grove of trees. Frank figured that antimatter was about the only thing that would take care of the brambles of sticker bushes that had grown up around the creosote-covered logs that were organized like scattered matchsticks and complemented in places with chicken wire. Furthermore, it was located near the house, so fire couldn't be used to clear it away. It was the perfect barrier. The German army couldn't get through it. The ivy Frank was working on wouldn't just pull off like strands of masking tape. The woody roots held on tight. It was like the stuff was welded on there. When it did come off, it would come off in patches. Frank had cleared a section of the wall off, and it was beautiful. And it gave him hope. He could see the light at the end of the tunnel. That is, until Potty Mouth came out to see how he was doing. Potty Mouth made Frank go back and pick off every pin-sized root, and go back again and clean off the near microscopic root fibers that remained. It was like nitpicking on a knit shirt until all the knit was gone, or sweeping a dirt floor until it was clean of dirt. As Potty Mouth criticized how little grits of concrete mortar would crumble off as he picked away at the traces of organic material that remained, it never occurred to Frank to turn around and ask, "So what?" When Potty Mouth saw that Frank was getting a little bit agitated, and he looked like he was going to come to his senses and quit at any time, he decided to take a break and leave Frank to work by himself for a while. Removing the ivy seemed like less of an impossible task when he was relieved of his roboss, and after a few hours, he made some real progress. As terrible as nitpicking is, Let it not be said that there isn't a certain value in patience and an eye for detail. When Giovanni Belzoni was uncovering the tombs around Egypt, his staff would tell him how they discovered a wall covered with hieroglyphics that could be of greater importance than those inscribed on the Rosetta Stone. And he'd say, "Grand! There must be something of greater importance behind it. Fetch me the dynamite and let's see." And he'd get the job done before tea time.
Fire in the hole!
Pottymouth toiled under the hood of the old car he was working on, the one that had been left in the garage. He could tell it was a relic, because he could change the oil without the use of multi-million-dollar equipment. And he didn't need to be a computer hacker to find out why the left headlight wasn't working. He wondered if that old house he used to live in had finally collapsed onto that old barge of circuitry he'd left behind months ago. Only 6 months had passed, and already his old computer, which was the size of a school bus, was obsolete, and had the same computing power as the new Cufflink.
Spelled C-U-F-L-I-N-Q.
One of the major drawbacks of the Cufflink was the price. It costs less than older computers, but becomes agonizingly expensive after it's been run through the wash after a week of buying it. In these situations, the Cufflink has been known to cause people to go bald. Pottymouth wondered how much longer it would be until cars weren't even around. He wondered if, in the future, people could just press a little chevron button on their lapel and be beamed from point A to point B. He had heard about a few scientists in Florida who had been nabbed for running a scam in which they would tell people that, instead of traveling to different parts of the world in airplanes, they could be transported there with a teleport machine that would cost a fraction of the price of standard airfare. The scientists were arrested, and their giant bug zapper was dismantled. He broke away from his work and strolled over to talk to Frank, who had come around the corner to get a drink of water from the garden hose. "So, you just about got it licked?" he asked him. Frank looked at him funny. "How clean do you want that wall to be?" he asked, getting all choked up and frustrated. Pottymouth got a chuckle out of that one, and fondly called him a horrible curse word. Frank asked him what he should do next, and Pottymouth showed him how to strip the varnish off an old table they could move out onto the porch. Frank wondered what kind of voodoo was behind Pottymouth's logic in deciding that, amongst the insurmountable tangle of yard work that the place required, and all the fix-it work that needed to be done on the inside, Pottymouth chose to put new varnish on the table. Frank found it disparaging. Frank found it even more disparaging that, after Pottymouth showed him exactly how he wanted it to be done, he would come back and yell at him for doing it wrong, and swear and cuss, and swear some more. Frank wondered how he could have gotten such a foul mouth, and why he was so irritable all the time. Pottymouth often wondered the same thing. He wondered why he was so angry all the time. He knew that other people were grumpy from time to time, and other people used profanity here and there, but not in every sentence. His logic told him that it would be better if he changed his demeanor and became happy and upstanding. Pottymouth was disgusted by the idea of becoming good and upstanding, and he gave a little shudder at the thought. He drank the last of his pickle juice and decided to go in the house for a refill. "You're doing it all wrong," he barked at Frank, inspecting the leaf he was hunched over. Instead of rolling his eyes and giving a huff, Frank asked delicately, "What, he scratched his head. "What is, wrong with my work?" "You're using too much thinner. Now, I told you before, if you ruin this table, you're paying for it," he rasped. Frank wasn't as taken back by the threat to take the price of the table out of his wages as Pottymouth would have expected. Frank continued hesitantly,